Are you ready to become the dad you were meant to be? Good, because this is the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast, where imperfect actions are better than perfect ideas, promises kept are more important than promises made, and nothing happens unless you make it happen. My name is Drew, father of three, and founder of the Epic Dad Company. My mission is to help dads up their game and become the husbands, fathers, and men they're called to be. We need epic dads now more than ever. And it is your responsibility and obligation to become the best father you can be and show your kids what is possible. Listen in for weekly tips, strategies, and actions you can take to go from average dad to epic dad. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the episode.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Drew Camp, here as always, founder of the Epic Dad Company, or TEDCO for short. And my mission with this podcast is to help you level up as a dad and become the husband, father, and man you are called to be. Hey, if you are new to the show, if you're just joining us, I want to say thank you for tuning in and listening. We have got a great episode for you today with a buddy of mine from the Apogee Strong Dads program. But before we hop into that, guys, if you haven't been paying attention, we have launched what we call our Epic Dad Crew. Our Epic Dad Crew is our online community of absolutely savage, like-minded dads that are all on the journey to becoming better in fitness, better in their relationships, better in finances, and really craft the identity, values, and vision and become the leader for their family that they know that they should be. And we are getting some awesome results with guys inside the crew. Listen, iron really does sharpen iron. If you are not hanging out with and surrounding yourself with other men that are going to push you, that are going to challenge you, that are going to call you out on your bullshit, that are going to make you level up and become the dad you're meant to be, then you are missing out. You are going to have a very difficult time doing this on your own. So if that is something that you are interested in, it is by application only. And we will have a link down in the description of this episode if you would like to apply to become part of the crew. All right, guys. Today I've got on Guillermo Vidal from Alpha Dad Consulting, or better known as just G. Now, G grew up as a rapper, as part of a Christian hip-hop group named Methodical Elements. And he performed all over Southern California for close to a decade. And from there, he went on to work for Apple as a trainer, where he publicly taught classes on music production and video editing for another 8 years before he decided to jump into entrepreneurship and start his own men's coaching business called Alpha Dad Consulting. And currently, G is also part of Apogee Strong Dads, where him and I connected. And Apogee Strong Dads is an organization run by Matt Beaudreau, who's been on the show, and Tim Kennedy, that help men improve in every area of life through mentorship from some of the best men out there. And some of the mentors include folks like Alex Hormozi, John Lovell, Stephen Mansfield, and many more. And today, G and I talk about his story, how he went from almost losing his wife to where he is now, the lessons learned along the way, and some of the biggest lessons that we have gotten from the Apogee Strong Dads program that you can start implementing into your life today to become a better father. So, guys, with that, let's hop into today's episode with Guillermo Vidal, or G, from Alpha Dad Consulting. G, what up, man?
What's up, Drew? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, which is awesome, man. It's cool that you and I get to connect through the Apogee Brotherhood. That's pretty awesome.
No, I wanted to touch on that too. Like, we can just dive straight into that, man, of like how we met, and some of the stuff that we've been working through. So we've got a mutual connection through Matt Beaudreau, who started the Apogee Dads program. So I'll let you kind of give a summary of like what that is, some of the stuff we've been working on, and kind of what is the intent behind like what is Apogee Dads, and then some of the stuff that you got had like as takeaways from that.
So Apogee Strong Dads, Apogee Dads program. I think they're changing it to like Apogee Man now, so it's evolving right as we've gone through. But one of the cool things that I think Drew and I got to do is that we're the first kind of guinea pigs that are coming into this program, right? This program that's run by Matt Beaudreau and Tim Kennedy. And it is pretty much a self-improvement type of program for dads, right? But the way that it sets itself apart from any other program, I think, that's out there, and one of the key reasons why I wanted to join was that it's a 12-month program, right? It's not a 3-day event you go to, you get pumped up, you get hyped, you come back, and then the fire kind of fades, right? Like that happens. Not knocking any of that stuff, because it's important, and I think the guys that do that, they do it well. But this was different, man. It wasn't like the hyper masculine guys, right? Like the ones that are just like beating their chest and like you gotta get in the ring for 3 minutes with some guys and just like duke it out it's like a fight club type of thing. It wasn't that either. This is very much what Matt likes to call a play your own game type of program, right? Because there's guys in there that are coming in that maybe have businesses like you and I are starting and going through. Building our businesses, and we're kind of looking for help in that area, but we might have maybe the family game a little bit more dialed in, right? But we want to learn more on the entrepreneurship side. We want to grow that. And then you have guys that maybe are killing it in the business game, right? And they're coming in and they need a lot of help with their family and they, or the fitness thing, right? Like there's a lot of elements to it that it's touching. And what's nice about it is that every month we're tackling a different theme within those categories. And there's challenges built around that. There is a phenomenal community component to it, which I think is probably the huge win. But on my part, I've gotten a chance to connect with men like yourself and other just great men that are just family leading men that are doing right by their families, that are not perfect men by any stretch of the imagination, but they are definitely working hard towards that goal, right? And then the other thing as well is that we get mentor calls, man. Like every week we get on a mentor call once a week with some of these just high achievers, guys that I would have never been able to get in the room with, right? And be able to speak to or ask questions to if I had not joined Apogee. So it's been blessings all around, man. A lot of personal growth on my part. And it's a phenomenal program for anybody that is out there that's listening to this that might be interested in joining something like that. It is not for the faint of heart. I will say that because it is a 12-month program, guys. That's a commitment for 12 months. It's not a short thing. So if you're going to do it, like be serious about you wanting to change and want to do it. And yes, things are going to come up. You're going to be busy. You're going to have, we just had a kid. We had our third child. Like, we're busy, we're doing things. And, we had a lot of things going on. I got the business. I have my own regular job that I have to maintain as well. And so there's a lot going on. But that's the point. If you can maintain your level of productivity high and then still be able to do something and do these challenges and all that, like you're going to grow, man. Like there's no way to not grow.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things to that, man. Like, so we first connected, I think you just shot me a note and we're like, hey man, let's just talk about podcasts. I'm thinking about starting this podcast. And then, and then here you are, right? You've got a podcast that's out and running, now. So like, it's awesome, man, to see that growth in some of the guys and that community aspect of like, hey, everybody might be working on different stuff, but it's all in the lens of like, I want to be a better father.
Yes,
so that's incredible, man. And then, on the, kind of access to people, Matt and Tim have such an incredible network of these amazing fathers, and maybe they're not fathers, and in some cases they may just be experts in their particular field that you get access to, right? And you get their direct knowledge poured into you. And so like that to me is like worth the price of admission, to shorten that learning curve. And like, so I think it's funny, you and I connected because you recently, because you put up a post or a story or something. I was like, if you know, and it was like Hormozi's acquisition, or whatever. And then I was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, literally got one of his books right here. I've got another book back there. I've got one that I'm reading on my nightstand. And it's crazy, man. Like I legitimately got to ask Alex a question live, right? Which is like, when would you ever be able to do that, right? Of just like to have access to that level of expertise and knowledge to get poured into you. And as a direct result of that conversation, I basically asked Alex, like, hey man, I'm the constraint in my business. What should I do? Like I'm doing everything. And like, as a result of that 1 minute conversation with him, I've hired an agency to help out with certain things and like, already seeing improvement off that. Right. So it gets you in the room with people that are performing at high levels. And so if you're a dad, you're listening and you're the smartest one in the room, or you don't have a network, right? That's the wrong answer. You always want to be surrounding yourself with people that are ahead of you so that you can continue to level up. So that's what it's been for me for Apogee, the biggest things. And then I really love as well the way they've structured it, in that there's not a ton of external pressure from the team. It is hey, you come and there's a lot of things you can do, but what is most important to you? And so that's what I've tried to take away from it is, hey, this monthly challenge is on X. It's a topic that's super relevant to me. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to tackle this one head first. And on some others that I feel like the fitness one, it's like, hey, I'm pretty good on that, right? I don't necessarily need to jump in and do this challenge. Like, there's no pressure of like you need to do every single little thing in this group. So that's been pretty cool as well. So yeah, man, Apogee. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check out Matt. Go check out Tim. Go check out the Apogee Strong Dads program. It might be like the perfect fit for you.
Yes, sir. Oh man. Yeah, I love it, man. It's changed my life for sure. And we're what, nine months?
Yeah.
About to be 10 months in. It's crazy. And it feels like it's just flown by. Like the time has flown by.
A
lot of growth in that small time.
One of the biggest things for me, and I actually have it on my nightstand, or not my nightstand for guys that don't watch it. It's just my like library behind me. So I don't know if you see this. I don't know if you remember this, but it is a burned letter. So this is the remnants. This is the remnants from an exercise that we had to write a breakup letter to ourselves. And that was just hugely impactful to me, right? Of acknowledging the fact that I have done a lot of good things in my life that have gotten me to the point where I'm at. But in order for me to get to the next place I want to go, I'm going to have to become a different person. Yeah. And so I'm breaking, the exercise was I'm literally breaking up with myself, thanking myself for, getting me to the position that I've got to, but also saying, hey, these are the things that I'm not going to accept moving forward. And this is how I'm going to live my life moving forward. And I actually wrote that breakup letter. And then I read it out loud to my wife, and was just like this incredible emotional experience of bawling in front of my wife, and just forgiving myself. I am not the perfect husband. I'm not the perfect father. I'm not the perfect man. I made a lot of mistakes, but moving forward, those mistakes are in the past. I am, breaking up with that old version of myself and really focusing from this moment forward. Even though it will still be imperfect, I'm focused on the version 2.0 of myself.
Yeah, man. I had the same experience with that challenge in particular, especially because it was one of the first challenges that we had to do. Like, it was therapeutic, man. It really shifted my perspective, and I had the same experience. When I wrote it, I had no emotion. I was just like, just logical G, right? Just boom, just writing out these are the things, and I'm listing things out. And then when I read it to my wife, that's when the emotion hit me, and I was like, man, I'm actually getting emotional. I'm actually having trouble finishing this, right? And my wife was like, she's crying too, and she's like, but yeah, dude, there's something about that, man, about putting the old man, your old self down, right? And rising up anew and becoming a different person. And even Matt likes to say in perpetuity, right? Like doing that every year, because now I feel like you and I have really grown this year, whether it's from Apogee and other things that we've been doing and challenges that we've done, but we've grown as men, we've grown as fathers, we've grown as husbands. And then to think that this next year, we got to go one step further, right? And grow again. And to have to, thinking about that, having to do that again and talking about, well, where did I mess up this year? Where was I really good this year? And having to do that self-reflection every year, man, there's a lot of power in that for sure.
Yeah. Cody Jefferson has this saying is what needs to die in me today to become the man that I said I would be. Right. And so I feel like that exercise that we did really encompasses that to a much broader scale of what have I done in my life that I'm proud of, that I want to continue forward, and what are the things that are not serving me, right? And how can I change moving forward? So yeah, guys, can't speak highly enough of Matt and Tim and the Apogee Strong Dads program. So go check it out. I think they're running classes. I don't know. They start every 3 months or so in class, something like that. It seems like. But yeah, anyway, man. So what have you been up to since joining the program? So you got a podcast now. You've got Alpha Dad Consulting. You've had baby number 3. So what's been going on, man?
Yeah, man. So, I have Alpha Dad Consulting. Essentially, it started as a YouTube channel, right? So I did that. It was about 3-4 years ago now, almost. Man, I just had this passion for wanting to help fathers, and I'll kind of get into my story in just a little bit as to how that came about. But, I had this passion of wanting to help fathers, wanting to help men. And as I was looking in the space, I was seeing guys like Ryan Mickler. I was seeing guys like Garrett J. White. And they were kind of on the opposite sides of things. Like Ryan was a little bit more composed, a little bit more, the kind of guys you would have. And Garrett was a little bit more in your face and just dropping F-bombs here and there, and that guy is his style, right? That's his thing. And I was trying to figure out, where do I fit in? You know, like, where can I come in this space? And like, do I even belong in this space? Who am I? Right? Like, a lot of imposter syndrome, and even up leading to Apogee, man, I still had that kind of imposter syndrome. Like, man, who am I? Like, what makes me special enough to talk about this? Just because I've conquered something in my life, does that really qualify me, type of thing, right? And so starting off as a YouTube channel, I just started posting videos, man. Like, and I was trying to help them with everything, right? I was talking about finances, I was talking about, business, and I was talking about all these different things, instead of just focusing on niche or family, or speaking to a specific type of man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall, man, seeing what sticks, and that's kind of how it started. Started really messy, but I started, and that's something that I was proud of. That I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna put things out there and just see what happens. And little by little, I started seeing some engagement, some people resonating with more of the, guys specifically resonating with more of the family oriented stuff. And, I was getting hit up by like friends and family that saw these videos popping up. And like, I completely purged my social media, right? So all my social media, like my Facebook, my Instagram, like all the things that I was using for personal use, I just got rid of it, man. I just got rid of all the baby pictures and like everything in there, right? And I went public with the accounts and just completely turned it into a business account, right? And that's how I just used my social media time. It was like for the business. If I'm either consuming content, it's for the business. If I'm producing content, it's for the business, and that's what it is. It's not about like, hey, I just want to know what Aunt Sally's doing, like, or anything like that. Like, nah, I don't, I could just call her. It's no big deal. You know what I mean? So I started kind of becoming more of a producer than a consumer, man. And that kind of changed the game for me a little bit. And it was something I was doing on the side. I'm still doing on the side. And little by little, as I saw the popularity of podcasts come about, that's when I wanted to do sort of a simulcast type of thing, right? Where I have the YouTube videos that I'm posting on, because it was hard to create videos, man. Like, because I was, just like you, I was doing everything. Like I had to come up with the scripting and the outlines for the videos, right? Like I had to come up with the topics to talk about. I had to record it, the lighting, the camera, the editing, like all that stuff was me. The copy, right? If I was sending out emails or something like that, I let people know. And then the marketing afterwards to market the video and like, post it on IG and all that stuff. So it's a lot, man. Like, it's a lot of work. Gain a lot of skills. So if you guys are looking to do that, it's a good thing to do and jump in, and you're going to gain a ton of skills. But it is a lot of work.
Dude, so let me stop you right there. So I 100% resonate with that, right? And we were talking before, and I was saying, like, I know I'm the constraint in the business, it's like, that's why we haven't grown any more than we have right now, because I'm doing every single thing. Yeah. And so, but to your point, you gain a lot of skills and expertise. And so I'm going to throw out a recommendation for you. It has changed my lens on my business within the past month. And it's a book called The E-Myth, the Entrepreneurial Myth.
Yeah.
Dude, definitely check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
I went through this exercise, and I'm going to pull it up right now. So sorry for guys that are listening. We're gonna go through some business stuff here, because it's just really cool. Like, my two passions, man, are dad stuff, right? Talking dad stuff and talking business. Yeah.
Same, bro. Same.
So I'm going to pull this up. Let me go to. I'm just going to type in org chart on my Google file here. Organization chart. There it is. So one of the exercises they recommend you do in this book, and it's geared towards like people just like us, right? We have this business, we're doing everything, we're jack of all trades, and the exercise is to take a look, like, future case, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 5 years, but like your business is running solid, right?
Okay.
Like, what does that look like organizationally, right? And like actually build out the org chart for what your future business is going to look like. And this was just an eye opener for me, man. I went through this exercise and I was like, holy shit. And then what they say is like, is that's okay. You're doing all of these right now. That's okay, because you're building the skills. But what you need to start doing is documenting what that function is and creating processes, creating SOPs already, so that when you get to the next level in business, you're able to hire. You can say, hey, this is what this role is. This is what they do. Here's your SOP. Let's systematize this. Go. And so it's funny. I put together this org chart, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 C-level suite people in the company
Yeah.
for my business, right? And I'm doing all of them.
That you're doing all the work for you.
So like I have a chief operating officer, COO. I have a
Yeah.
chief product officer, which product is not technology for me. Product is supplementation, right?
Yeah.
And so I've got, a guy that's running supplements, deciding what we want, negotiating with vendors, et cetera. I've got a chief revenue officer, which is responsible for ensuring that, pricing, our funnels, our sales channels, our scripting, it's all maximized for revenue growth. Yeah. I've got a chief brand officer, which is really like when we're not putting out things to make money, what's our messaging out in the marketplace, right? So I've got a CBO, chief brand officer. I've got a chief community officer that helps run our coaching and our community. And then I've also got a CFO, chief financial officer, that obviously make sure we're in the black and we're growing and comes with recommendations on how we can improve. And so it's like, holy crap, man, I'm doing all of those right now. It's like, where can I, systematize some of this stuff and bring in resources? So anyway, I just thought it was an extremely beneficial exercise for me. It might be for you too, just knowing where you're at in stage of business.
I like that.
Yeah, a lot. It's cool.
Yeah, and it was funny, is I just like you were mentioning with the VA and hired, like I literally just did that. So a few weeks ago, I just hired an agency and a VA that I'm working with, and he's phenomenal, man. But I gave him one kind of solo cast video that I created, and I had him add some B-roll, make it more engaging, that kind of thing, right? So I'm learning how to delegate tasks because that was, and these are kind of like, it's your baby, right? It's like, it's your work of art, your business. So it was hard for me to do that. So I probably did a lot of pre-work for him, right? Like to set him up for success, where he just had to do very minimal kind of things. But it was kind of a trial run for me to kind of see, all right, well, one, can I delegate, right? Can I be an effective delegator in terms of being very specific about what I would like and what I want? Can I be confident enough to trust as well, right? That maybe he could have some liberties and take some freedoms wherever he thinks it could be improved, because he's an editor, like he does editing full time. I don't, right? So yeah, it's been kind of a learning thing, man. And he just finished up the project, and I was that guy, bro. Like he submitted it, and I was like, oh, can you add this? Can you add this one? You know what I mean? Like one more thing. And it wasn't like a hard thing, but it was just, like, I kind of want to add this. I want to change this and this. And I was becoming that guy. And I told him on my last message to him, I was like, dude, I promise that the next time I'm going to make sure I have all my, my I's dotted and my T's crossed, and like everything's going to be good. And you'll just have all the information up front instead of me going back and forth.
Yeah. And it's funny.
Like, nah,
it's funny because like I have this skill set in corporate America, right? Really? Delegating, but like when it comes to your thing, it's like it's your baby, right? Like you want to make sure everything is right. So I think like this has been a helpful exercise of really just like laying out these are the roles that when we're operating at full scale that we're going to have, and so I need to start thinking about what role does it make sense to fill first, and then second, and then third when we get to that point, right? And so when we have enough cash flow, and I can find somebody that does it 80% as good as I do, hire out, right?
Yeah.
And then have those things in place, those SOPs, those processes to effectively delegate. And that's been the tough part, right? It is it's your baby, and so you want it to be perfect, but you have to realize to grow. You can't do everything, and you get to a point in size, and you scale to a point in size where you won't grow anymore if it's all you. And that's where I've gotten to, and it sounds like that's where you've gotten to, some capacity as well. It's like, hey, I need some help here. So would be a great resource, man. The E-Myth. I don't know who the author is, but awesome book.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. I've had ads for it and all that as well. So I'm gonna check it out for sure, man. I appreciate that.
So what's going on with Alpha Dad Consulting? What are you guys into? What are you helping out with?
Yeah, man. So our focus is on family men, essentially. Right. So family men who are feeling stuck, stressed, overwhelmed by sort of the challenges that they face of being a husband, a father, a provider. Right. So our aim is to help these family men become kind of embrace the leadership role, really. Right. And take that on, and in turn be able to kind of create the family life experience that they actually want. We all had this, when we got the ring on the finger, right? We go and we propose, and we meet this beautiful woman that we want to make our wife. And then we have all these promises, and we probably have a vision of what it's going to be like, right? Like what the perfect life is going to be like, whether it's the suburban life with the big house and the picket fence and all that stuff. And we usually get a sense that it's going to be a peaceful, loving home, right? But what we don't realize is like, yo, you got to work for that. That doesn't just come just naturally, and it's just not going to be all sunshine and rainbows after you get married, man. It's like, so that's kind of what we help family men with is like, you know, how do you unlock the love and the respect and the bond that you seek from your wife and kids, right? And create that life experience when you're facing all these challenges, you know, as a family man, right? And there's a lot of guys out there that's kind of what's keeping them up at night, man. Like it was for me, that was true for me is, you know, what was keeping me up at night is just not having things figured out. Like not having everything figured out, whether it's my financial game, right? And making enough money to support and provide, whether it was my being a good husband to my wife, am I pouring in there? You know, am I pouring into my kids? Am I spending too much time at work and I'm not spending enough time with the kids, right? Like, and my biggest fear was to be found out, right, by my wife that I don't have things figured out, to be found out by my kids that I don't have all these things figured out, because it naturally, right, and as the man of the house or the leader, right, of the house, like they're looking at you, man, like you're the guy, you're the one manning the ship, and you're the one that's kind of steering this thing and leading it. So they're looking at you, and if you don't know where you're going or you don't have any clarity of vision for your family, where you want to go and that kind of thing, like, it's going to make it hard to traverse and navigate this family game, man. And that's kind of where we're coming in, or where I'm coming in, and trying to help in that scenario, and trying to get clarity there, and trying to help men, you know, overcome those challenges.
Yeah. Do you think that all men have the self-awareness to understand that they do have those challenges? I feel like there's, you know, a lot of dads out there and men out there that they're just kind of going through the motions, right?
Yeah.
And at what point do they wake up and say, hey, you know, I need to figure some of this stuff out?
Yeah.
You know, and so like you get a job, you're talking to the water, you know, folks at the water cooler, and it's all surface level stuff, right? It's, hey, you know, did you see the basketball game this weekend? Or, you know, we going to hang out at the bar later or whatever, right? Do you feel like that every man has that internal drive to become the best father they can be? Or is that something that a certain segment of society has? Or is that something that everyone has and they just need to be woken up to it?
Yeah. It's a good question, man. And it's a hard one to answer too, because from my experience, what I've seen, right? Like it can be twofold. It can be, what I've seen is a lot of the guys that come in and they flip and do a 180, right? From going from where they were to where they want to be, and become kind of a better dad and all that. They either have to have like a rock bottom moment, right? Or something has happened in their life, whether it's their marriage is in turmoil, like it was for me. That was my kind of, you know, wake up moment. Or they're losing their kids in some capacity, right? Maybe the influence that they have over their kids, and especially in society nowadays and what's being taught in schools, right? And all that. Like, there's a lot of division being caused there just by that alone. So something has to happen, right? That usually wakes them up, that shows them and you know, shakes them up and says like, hey man, if you keep doing this, you need to change. Like something needs to change here, right? And they'll usually have that wake up moment. And the other side that I've seen is we were talking about earlier, exposure to someone that's already doing it better than they are, right? Like a hero. I think Cody Chapman mentioned this on my podcast. Like he was talking about, like, when you look at a hero, you look at look at somebody like Matt, right? And the way he talks, and the way he talks about his family, and the things he's conquered, and it has to come out, like, hear his testimony of how he's come around that, or come out of that, I should say. And that is kind of like, oh, okay, like there's exposure to a better way of living, right? And when you get that, and there's a lot of guys out there that don't have that, man. Like, they have the circle of friends that you just described, where it's just about the game. It's just about the NFL game that they just watched. It's just about sports stats. You know, that's the level of conversations that they're having, as opposed to talking about the deep stuff, talking about like, hey man, how's your marriage going, bro? Like, are you guys good? Like, you guys doing well? You guys need anything? You know, are you guys doing, how's your job? Like, you doing okay financially? You need any help, man? Like, you know, like, we don't talk about those things. Even now, man, like, I see the guys that I grew up with, and it's a rare thing for us to ask each other about our relationships and our family, and like, how's your relationship with your son, man? What's he into? What are you up to? Like, that's not what, like, we're talking about a movie, or we're talking, you know what I mean? Like, the level of conversation is different. And we live in a society right now where we're very easily distracted because there's so many options to distract us. We can go either way, like whether it's social media, whether it's sports, whether it's drugs and alcohol and whatever, right? There's vices galore everywhere. So for us to get distracted, it's an easy thing. So it's harder to wake guys up, I think, now, but it's a time where it's super necessary. And what we're doing, I think, is that if we can be that kind of, I don't want to put hero archetype, right? Like where we're putting out content and showing guys that, putting things out there like, yo, there's a better way to do this, man. There's a better way that gives you better results, which are results that you probably want. You just haven't thought about it, because you're just so caught in the comfort of the lifestyle that you're used to living. Maybe the lifestyle that you even saw your dad live, or the men in your life, right? But there's a different game and there's a different way to play this. So yeah, but that's what I would say. It's either you hit the rock bottom moment or you are exposed to someone better, where you're like, I want what he has. Like, I want that,
Yeah. So I had on Larry Hagner from the Dad Edge on the podcast. Yep. It'll release here soon.
Nice.
And he said something to me that was pretty impactful. Talking about, I kind of asked someone a similar question of like, what do dads need to really wake up, right? And to realize that like, hey, my job is way more important than just providing financially. And he asked me the question that, how often do you change your oil? And I was like, I don't know, like every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, right? It's what you're supposed to do. And he was like, yeah. He was like, well, what would happen if you didn't do that? And I was like, well, I'd have a catastrophic event. My engine would blow up. And then I'd probably learn the lesson that I need to be doing these things. And he was like, well, hey, it's the same thing, right? With being a better dad, being a better man. We often wait until our engine blows up to raise our hand and say, cool, I need to work on this. And so it's just kind of taking that same approach of like, we've got to maintain, we've got to continue to build our skill sets, our resilience, and our knowledge around these things so that we don't have that catastrophic event, right? I feel like, a lot of times it's just that. It's like my wife walks in the room and says, I want a divorce, or, I lose my job and we're struggling financially and like, don't know what to do. Right. And it's these big events that happen in life, but it doesn't have to get to that. If you're a dad, if you're a man and you have this inkling of, I want to be better, there are so many tools and resources out there that are going to help you avoid that catastrophic event that you can do on a maintenance level, Yeah,
man. And I think you mentioned it too, like in your pillars, if I'm remembering correctly, it was passivity, right? Like,
reject passivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like most guys are living a comfortable life, and they don't think that something like that would happen to them, right? Like, see maybe a friend or something like that get divorced, or they go through a hard life and they're like, man, that sucks. I feel for you, but that ain't me, right? Like when we look at our marriage, we're not that bad. That's what they'll say. Like, we're not that bad. Not that bad, right? That's a common thing. And it's like, dude, that's really what you want to be? Like, you want to just be not that bad. Like, no, we're not that bad. We're good. We're fine. Like, it's like, is that really it? And most men, that's like, they're cool with that, man. Like they're accepting that. And that's what I can't get with that. Like, I need to be better. Like I need to have a nice, strong, loving, passionate marriage. Like, I want that, I want a strong bond with my kids. I want that. And I know that being passive and accepting mediocrity, and you're not going to get it that way, man. Like, you have to do something extraordinary. You have to do something that's out of the norm in order for you to get results that are not normal, right? Like, that are not the norm, the status quo, if you will. So,
yeah. And success leaves clues. I feel like we kind of talked about it before as part of the Apogee program of having access to that network, right? Of those people that maybe are on a higher level than you. And that's something you aspire to be is, hey, what are they doing? What have they done? And so success is always going to leave clues. So if there is someone that you aspire to that has an amazing relationship, they're doing something different than you are. Right. And it's going to leave clues. And so same thing in business and fitness and whatever, right? Is there's a path, and we just have to figure out how do we tap into that and learn from people that are a little bit further down the road.
Yeah. And I think also I feel like it's popular to kind of be siloed too, right? Like, it's to kind of be in your own world and be the lone wolf and figure things out on your own, and like, I'll figure it out. Like, I don't need any help. I don't need to ask for help. And there's a lot of guys that fall into that trap too. I was in that trap as well, man. Like, I felt like less of a man to ask for help. It was, especially in areas where, that were more touchy subjects, like my marriage, or like, that kind of thing, or even finance, right? Like getting somebody else to look at my finances and see how much debt I have, and kind of unveil that part of me where I've failed because I had a bunch of debt and I had all these things, right? Like, I didn't know how to play that game. And instead of being okay with like, hey man, like, yeah, this is the truth. This is really what's going on with me. I really need help. Can you just take a look, and can you help me? What advice can you give me? I wasn't that guy. I was the guy that was going to go try to figure it out on my own. And it wasn't like I was reading books or, going on YouTube or anything like that. It was just like, I was just going to magically figure it out on my own, in my mind, because it's going to come to me, right? God's going to reveal it somehow. But man, like, we need to get past that, bro. Like, I think the more you beat the ego down, because that's ego, right? Ego coming through and trying to claw its way out and being trying to dominate your mind, essentially. And the more we can beat that down and understand, like, hey man, there's a lot of people, and this is what I've found too with working with all these mentors that we've had, is like the willingness that all these guys have that are like multimillionaires, like Alex and Hormozi, right? All that, like, these guys don't really need to be with us for that hour, right? But they give of their time, man, and they understand the mission, and they're willing to extend a hand and reach out and give advice. And all we really have to do sometimes is just ask, and just, be willing to be a student, and ask. And you guys will receive a lot from these people, man. And guys that are further ahead, even if they're just a few chapters ahead, I guarantee you a lot of those guys are willing to look back and say, hey man, yeah, let me show you what I did. Let me show you what mistakes I made. And you can avoid yourself a lot of headache. But if you're looking at your relationship right now and you're thinking like, man, my family life is not that bad, I want you to think twice, really analyze it, really analyze how you're showing up in that family as a leader, and analyze every aspect of your life and see if you're showing up, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your ability to grow your skill set, right? Like skill acquisition to be able to make more money, guys. Like there's nothing wrong with making more money. And especially if you're a man of integrity, that's going to know how to use it well, right? You're not necessarily that you're motivated by money, but just that you're motivated by helping others and building businesses that help others. And in turn, you will receive money. You will be recompensed for, right? Compensated for that, I should say. And so like, look, analyze, right? How your kids are doing, right? If their kids are spending so much time in front of a screen, and the iPad is kind of like the babysitter, right? Which happens. It's happened to me too. Like there's times we're at a restaurant, right? And the kids acting up, and what can you do? You put on Finding Nemo. Here we go. Like, it happens, right? I get it. I get that it's easy. I get that it's the easier route to do, but is there something else that you can do? Is there a way that you can be showing up better, right? And where that status can go from being not that bad to being like, killing the game. Like now you're actually leveling up as a dad in all areas, man. And there's a lot of avenues. We live in a time right now where there's so much information, so many programs, so many communities that you can join. It doesn't have to be us. We'd like it to be us, but it doesn't have to be us, right? And it depends on who you resonate with, whether it's Larry Hagner from the Dad Edge or Drew Camp from Epic Dad or me from Alpha Dad Consulting. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as you guys go and get the help that you need and, get the skill acquisition to become better leaders, man. Like, it's going to change the world if we do that, for sure.
Yeah. On the ego piece, I think that is something that is huge on every person. We think we have to have it all figured out. But the biggest leaps in growth that I have had in my professional career and my personal, life have all been around mentorship. And like I said, getting in the room with people that are further along with me to shorten that learning curve, because I'm going to bring it, up the business world up, right? But there's always a tax that you pay. And so it's either going to come in two forms. Typically, it's going to come in the stupid tax, which is you're going to pay for it with your time, your effort, your mistakes, and you're going to learn the hard way. Try to do it yourself, right? And like, you may figure it out. Like, you may be, that one guy, that does all the work himself and figures out how to improve his relationship and his business and all that stuff. But you're going to pay a pretty heavy tax to do that. Or you can pay another tax, which is the tax that allows you to get around those people, to be in the same room as them and learn from them and shorten that learning curve. So you're always going to pay a tax. It's going to be the stupid tax, or you can pay tax financially to get into these mentorship programs or masterminds, whatever you want to call them. You can pay that financially. You can pay that through time. You can pay that through adding value to get in the room. But it's all about surrounding yourself with people that are further along the journey than you are, and giving up that ego to put yourself out there and say, there is something I need to learn, and I need to surround myself with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you guys an example, beating out the ego, because this is what I had to do in my personal life, right? So the way kind of everything went down, like I mentioned my marriage and how it ended in turmoil, right? And we were one court trip away from a divorce, man. Like we were about to end this thing. And the way it went down, right? So I was playing Call of Duty till 2:30 in the morning.
All right. You were 13 when this happened, right?
Yeah, no, right? Yeah. I wish, man. Early 20s, man, playing Call of Duty. This was 2012, right? So the year that they said the world was gonna end, right? And they even made a movie on it. Definitely, I thought my world was ending for sure, man. Because so I'm playing till 2:30 in the morning after a long day of work. I'm working at Apple during this time, at one of the Apple stores. So I, shut down the PlayStation, whatever. I go over. My wife's already asleep. I give her a kiss to let her know I'm getting in bed. And then right next to the nightstand, I see her phone vibrate, right? I'm like, who the hell is texting her at 2:30 in the morning, right? So what does any curious husband do? They go to the phone and unlock it. And lo and behold, man, I get the influx of text messages between her and another guy. And it's a shock for me, of course, and it's every endearing word that her and I have ever shared being shared between her and another guy. And it was, dude, my heart sank. I felt cold. It was like I felt dead inside, right? Feeling that betrayal. And then I shook her, like shoved her awake. And she woke up and she was like, whoa, what's going on? She's shocked at my discovery. And I'm yelling at her. I'm being as disrespectful as I possibly can and it's the first time that's ever happened, and I don't know what to do, man. We're both just looking at each other like, what the hell is going to happen after this? Where do we go from here? Right. And I remember we didn't sleep at all. Like we couldn't sleep that night. And we go after that, we start seeking counseling with our pastor and all that. We do that whole thing. And now, before anybody that's listening to this casts kind of judgment on that scene, right? And I know a lot of the times you have people say, especially guys are in like the red pill community, like, cheater, always a cheater, all that stuff, right? Now, before you cast judgment on that scene, I want to rewind back a little bit, because everything happens for a reason, as you guys know. And this right here was, when these things happen, it's not an overnight thing. This stuff leads up. There's a lot of things that happen in the background that lead up to these moments in any marriage that suffers through this. And when you go back, you witness me, like we got married pretty young, right? We were really young. We grew up in church, right? And so we were trying to do the right thing. We wanted to get married because we wanted to indulge in the marital privileges, right? That was the big motivating factor. And that's why we got married in a living room with our pastor. So it wasn't like this big old, I was broke, dude. Like, man, anything. So we got married. We were in love. We wanted to have this first year is like phenomenal, right? And here's where the issue is, right? Aside from being inexperienced and not understanding how even relationships work, right? I definitely didn't understand how a marriage worked. And when I entered the marriage, I thought, just like, everybody always told me, like, hey, when you get married, that's like one of the most important decisions you make in your life. I'm cool, like as a man, like that's what the most important decision. So I entered the marriage thinking that I had beaten the game, right? I was like, cool, I got the girl, right? I beat the movie, beat all the bad guys, got the, at the end of the movie, I got the girl, I married her, and we can put this on cruise control and we're be good for the rest of our lives, right? And she had a different expectation. She was like, man, this dude treated me so well while we were dating and like leading up to the marriage, this first year of marriage, like, man, he's just going to become 2.0 version of G, right? As we keep going. And now, man, I became the downgraded model real quick because I nestled into, became really overweight, just letting myself go. I was eating like crap. I was just like, everything, man. It was just really, really bad. And then I also started becoming more, instead of being like her man and her husband, I started becoming more of an overprotective dad, right? Mind you, she was young. She was like 19, 20, right, at this time. So this is like, now she grew up in an overprotective household, Christian household. Her dad's a pastor, right? So she never got any liberties. And now that we were married and she's kind of an adult woman, right? Like she has friends at work and all that, and they're inviting her to parties and this and that. And she's like, hey man, come with me. Let's go. Like, let's go together. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't my scene. So I was like, nah, I don't want to go, but I don't want you to go either. You're not going to go. Like, you know what I mean? I became that guy, man. And it just kept piling on. And I ignored her a lot. I would get home and I would just play video games, dude. Like, and we headphones on. She's in the living room, sitting on the couch on her phone, and we're in the same space, not communicating at all. And I'm over there yelling at guys like freaking in a match or so. You know what I mean? Like, it's so childish, man. So stupid. And didn't realize that all those things were planting seeds in her, right? They were pretty much showing her that I wasn't what she expected. And when she first met me, I was rapping. I was in a hip hop group. I had a lot of ambition. There was a Christian hip hop group, and I was performing concerts every weekend, man. And after I got married, the group broke up, and I just kind of lost my ambition, my drive to want to be creative and use that as a creative outlet, or even pursue that as a career or anything like that. So that's where I got the job at Apple and started working there. And I remember one night, I'm getting home from a long day at Apple. I was dealing with a customer who was like, she was just yelling at me about a broken screen or something, right? Like we were just going back and forth, and it was just one of those interactions. So I get home about 10 p.m. and I walk in. My wife's excited to see me. She's like, oh, babe, like, how was your day? This and that, blah, blah. I sit in my recliner. She has like food ready for me. She's doing the wifey thing, right? And she's excited to talk to me. She wants to tell me about her day. Like, oh, you should have seen what happened with so-and-so, blah, right? And I cut her off in the middle of that. And I'm like, babe, can you just, look, I just had a long day. I just want some peace and quiet right now. I don't want anybody talking to me. Cut her off. Then I look over and I see her face, man. I'll never forget her face. I always picture that because her face was like, it went from happiness to like just complete heartbreak. Wow, like you don't even want to talk to me. Like my wife, bro, the one that I chose to marry and commit to, I don't want to hear her voice. Like, think about how deep that is and how deep that cuts. And maybe I wasn't being verbally abusive or cussing her out, or I wasn't being physically abusive, but that was abuse in some sense. And it was her. And so all of that and more moments like that is what led to the scene that I just described to you. And as we're going through counseling, we are trying to figure things out, and counseling is not working, man, because then I become now I'm amped up. Now I'm an overprotective, really jealous guy, because now if she goes to the store for 20 minutes, I'm like tracking her phone. I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like I'm becoming that obsessive guy, man. And I'm making it a nightmare for her. I'm telling her, in one side, I'm telling her, I forgive you. I want to work things out. And then on the other side, I'm doing all of that, right? Checking her emails, checking her text. Dude, I'm like a detective, you know what I mean? Doing that. You imagine trying to get past something like that and you have that happening. And that's when we were getting close to just calling it quits, man. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with, you talk about mentorship, my mentor growing up, who I call Pops, he had a conversation with me, and he told me, he's like, look, son, you are never going to be able to control what another person does, including your wife. Like, you're never going to control her. You're never going to control what anybody does. The only thing you can control is yourself. And if you get really good at controlling yourself and your habits, your skills, all that stuff, you get good at controlling you, then everyone around you has to respond to the changes that you make. They have to respond to the actions, the words, the person that you become. Everyone around you has to respond to that person, including your wife. And now if your wife decides like, hey, she wants to leave and she's done with this as well, then that's okay. That's her decision. But at least you still become a better man. And then if God blesses you with another woman and you get married again, then you're a better man, man. Like you can handle this better. You can enter into a marriage better. Or she can see the changes that you make and she'll respond to that as well, and respond in a positive way and actually understand that you are changing, you are being different, And so that clicked, man. It flipped a switch in my head that it wasn't flipping before. And when he said that, I was like, all right, I need to work on myself.
Yeah.
So I got into personal development, which led into like entrepreneurship and all. It's funny how those things are always hand in hand. And I started changing. I started making different changes in my life and taking different actions, man, and trying to be more attuned to her feelings and understanding, right? And picking up better habits, taking care of myself better and all that. And little by little, it took a while. It took probably 2-3 years, man, for her to really. So a lot of that was us willfully committing to the relationship and all that. But she needed to believe me. She needed to see a track record of me doing the right things because I was doing the wrong things for so long. And that's what resulted in us, because I fell out of love with her. She fell out of love with me, right? And one of the things that my pops would tell us is like, he would ask us the question, like, what does it mean to be in love, right? And I would always say like, oh, like, well, it's like a feeling and this and that. Like, no, dude, it's not a feeling. You could say that you love the Army, or you could say that you're in the Army. Two very different things, right? And he's like, when you're in love with someone, when you're in something, you are committed. Like it's a choice, man. Like you're making a choice every single day to stay committed to this person, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, right? Like all those things, the vows that we so love to proclaim, like, are we living up to those things? And when he said that, and we committed, we committed to the relationship, and dude, all those actions, everything I did, she responded to it in a positive way. She was like, man, okay, he's actually changing. And little by little, we fell in love with each other again. And this time it was like, man, it's like a bond, bro, that like just increased. Now we're like almost 13 years into this thing, 3 kids, and like, she's a stay-at-home mom. I was able to acquire the skills necessary to be able to provide for that and make that possible for her. And she like right now, man, she knew I was doing this podcast. So she's over there. She's like, hey, I'm going to take the kids into the room just so that they're not making noise. And I didn't tell her to do that. She was like, oh, I'm going to do that for you. I know you got the podcast going on. Like, dude, it's undeserved, but I'm absolutely grateful for it, and I do what I can every single day to earn that love and that respect that she gives me, and vice versa. She does the same thing, man. And we have a bond that's much stronger. And we had to go through a form of hell to get back from that. And I blame myself, man. Like Jocko Willink, right? Extreme ownership. Like it was really me, man. Like I could have totally avoided that because she was going out seeking what I wasn't giving her outside, right? Somebody else came in and they were giving her the attention that I wasn't, and this and that. And I could look at that and I could be like, oh, you this and blah, and blame it and go the whole red pill movement route or whatever. But where does forgiveness come in? Where does understanding come in? Where does grace come in? Where does the ability to grow come in? Not only for her, but for me. Because if I wouldn't have forgiven her and I were in a real way and changed and all that, she would still be suffering from that. And who knows what trajectory of her life that would have caused, right? And vice versa. Same with me. I would still be angry, wrathful, and all that. Like, dude, this stuff happens, guys. Like, happens. There's a lot of relationships right now that it's probably happening. Sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the girl. But there's a reason why it happens. There's a reason why it happens. There's something missing in the marriage. And that's what you need to work hard to figure that out. And I believe a lot of the times, it's what the guy is not doing, right? What the man is not doing, because the wife tends to respond to how the man acts and, and how he shows up as a leader. So yeah, man, a lot of change, a lot of growth, dude. And it was a lot of me beating the ego every single day during that time. So with that, I just wanted to mention that.
Incredible story, man. And I think to your point, it's a story that happens often, that probably doesn't have the outcome that you had. And so I think that's a little different, which is incredible. And I think there's really a couple of ways you can react to something like that. In my, viewpoint, it's, hey, this happened. I'm going to play the victim mentality. Why is this happening to me? Right. And this is all her fault. Or the other side of it, flip side of the coin on that is, what am I doing or what am I not doing that is helping drive this behavior? Understanding that I can't control what another person does. Right. And I think we have to have, not, I don't know, like grace is the right word, right? But just like the understanding that I am not in control here. And at the end of the day, right, like my wife right now, she's sitting outside with my 18-month-old son, and I was just texting her a little bit saying, hey, I'll take the laundry up in just a second when I'm done, but hey, she could leave me tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
She could, and I can't control that. I cannot control what she does as much as I want to. I cannot control her actions. But what I can do is make sure that I am showing up as the best version of myself and being intentional and trying to fill her bucket, and show up in the ways that resonate with her and her love languages to make sure she feels seen, heard, and understood. But ultimately, at the end of the day, right, the only thing I control is me and my actions and what I do, how I can show up, how I can respond, and try to really build that relationship. But that's been something that I've had to get over too, man. It's like, I can't control it, right? I can't. And she is her own person. She's going to do what she's going to do. And all I can do is show up and just be the best version of myself.
And and there's a level, like I said, as a family leader, there's a level of influence that you have in that, right? Like you can only influence. You can't control, but you can influence. So you depending on what you do, right? Like what makes her mad, and what makes her happy, right? Like, so just do more of the things that make her happy than make her, like, it's simple, but a lot of times we fail to do that, right? And when you gain a sense of self-awareness, like there's times where if I'm focused on something on the business, if I'm focused, man, I'm doing focused work, like I can't focus on anything else. I need to just dive in and just focus on what I'm doing, right? And sometimes if I'm too engraved in that right now, or I'm too in it, I'm too deep into it, I can be snappy, or I can be like short, right? Like that. And she'll come and ask me like a simple question, like, hey, like, are you hungry? Like, want something? Like, no, I'm good right now. And I'll say it like that, right? There's a certain tone there, not because I'm trying to be rude or anything. Like, it's just how it comes out, right? But can you have the self-awareness enough to realize that you did that?
Yep.
And then come back later on and say, hey, babe, like, you know what? When you came in earlier in the office and you asked me if I wanted something to eat, and I said, like, hey, man, I'm sorry that it came out. Like, I'm sorry if it came out that way. Like, I wasn't meaning it that way. I hope you know that. It's just I was in something. I was so focused, and when you asked me the question, it just kind of threw me off. But so I apologize for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you become self-aware of where you fall short, and then she's like, whoa, like you remember that? Like you actually remember that? That's like such a little minuscule, but it's the little things. You just said laundry. I got to take up the laundry. Those little things, the laundry, the dishes, the stuff that she'll normally take care of around the house, depending, and I help her as well and do what I need to do, right? But those little things will cause a bunch of issues, man. Like if you just let them fester and you don't talk about them. And one of the things that my wife and I she laughs about it now, right? But she always wanted me to be the psychic. She wanted me to know exactly how she was feeling, what she was feeling, when she was mad. And she wouldn't tell me. She was just assume that I knew, because I knew her. I just have to read her mind, and I know that she's mad or she's upset at me about something, right? Even though if I ask her, like, hey, are you mad? No, I'm fine, right? Like, I'm fine.
The F word
exactly,
for
right?
wife is never good.
Dude, for sure, man. And, so that is always, she laughs about it now because now she understands, like, hey, he's a guy. He can't read my mind. So I have to tell him if I'm upset about something. She tells me now. And, and there's sometimes I miss it. Like sometimes I've gotten better at understanding where I fall short and when I've said something or done something that could have hurt her, and I'll address it and I'll bring it up initially. But she's also gotten better of just letting me know, man, like, hey, like, I was kind of upset because you told me you were going to take out the trash and you didn't, like you said, like, it just stayed there and it festered and blah, right? Okay. Yeah. You're right. I messed up. Let me go handle that now, but she tells me and then I can understand. And next time I understand, cool. If I tell her I'm going to take out the trash, like, I'm going to go do it. I'm just going to, if I tell her it's going to be in 5 minutes, I'm going to go do it in 5 minutes. Like, keep your word. And the more you do that, it bodes well for your relationship, man. And then you just, it inevitably gets stronger, even with the little things. I would say, especially with the little things, the little everyday stuff that you guys you're either brushing underneath the rug or you're not addressing. That stuff will grow and it'll fester and it'll turn, it'll turn into something larger.
It builds in a resentment is what it builds into,
exactly.
And enough resentment over time is going to cause massive disaster down the road.
Yes, sir.
It has to be addressed. One thing that has been helpful for me, and my wife does it now too, and it's something we would always get mad at each other about, like, not paying enough attention to one another, right? Like, I'm on the phone doing work stuff and like just like that. Like she might be saying something to me. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, like because I'm in the zone doing something, right? And then that would fester, right? Like, oh, well, I'm not important enough for him to pay attention to, and that, right? And same thing with her. Like if I'm trying to tell her something, we're having a conversation, she's doing something on her phone or whatever. And one thing that's been helpful for us is like, it almost sounds like you're being an asshole, but you're not. You're just getting out in front of that. And so when that happens, right, when I'm actively involved, maybe in a conversation on the phone, whether it's a text message with like a business or whatever, or an email, and she's wanting to tell me something, I will proactively just say, hey, I'm working on something for 2 minutes. If you can give me 2 minutes, then I'll give you my full attention. And that way she understands, oh, cool. Like he doesn't want to give me half of his attention. Let him finish what he's doing real quick. That way he can be focused, and then he can give me all of his attention and focus. And that's been a huge thing. That's what I'll tell my kids that too. And that way I'm not trying to balance so many things at once. So that's just something that's been like super, super helpful, very tactical, but something that helps a ton. Avoid those where you feel like you're not being paid attention to.
And no, I like that. That's actually really good. I'm gonna have to steal that, dude. I'm gonna take it because I've definitely had moments like that for sure.
Yeah. It's tough, right? You're in the zone on something, you want to finish it, but you also want to like give her time too. So just that way you can try to avoid trying to balance all of that. Well, dude, G, where can people go to find out more about Alpha Dad Consulting, find out more about what you have going on in your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can look it up. alphadadconsulting.com is the website. Alpha Dad Consulting is the YouTube channel, as well as the podcast name. So it's all the same name for everything. If I can, like I do have a gift I can give you guys too. There's essentially like a little book that I created. It's called the Ultimate Family Leader Playbook, and you guys can pick that up for free. It's at alphadadconsulting.com/leader. You can go there, just pick it up for free. It's a nice little book. Talks about 7 battle-tested strategies that I've done, that I've used to kind of get past the situation that I went through. Right. There's some Apogee stuff mixed in there as well that I think would be helpful. But it gives you some tactical things that you can do in your home that might be of use. So.
Well, awesome. We'll drop all the links in the description, guys, for you guys to go check out G, what he has going on. Dude, I just want to say thank you for coming on, man, dropping some value, some knowledge into our community. It's been awesome getting to know you, staying connected, and kind of seeing the growth from both of our businesses and both personally over the past 9 months or so. So I know that's going to continue forward. So excited about your journey, man, and continue to stay in touch. But with that, guys, hey, we will, we'll stop here. If you guys got any value from this conversation, just do one of two things: is either drop down and leave a review, or you can send this to another dad. So like I always say, is you never know what struggles that dads are having behind the curtain. Their relationship could be a disaster, their relationship with their spouse, their kids. They could just be going through a lot of stuff, right? And like G and I talked about on this episode, is like we have the ego barrier there, right? And we don't want to talk about it. And so by sharing this episode with another dad, you never know. This could be what they need to hear to start taking action and improving their relationship and taking solid action towards a better life as a father. So shoot it out to another dad in your network and just tell them to give it a listen. But G, thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks,
guys. Absolutely, man. And guys, we'll wrap here, and we will see you on the next episode.